December 19th, 1944. Near St. Vith, Belgium. Snow drifts silently across the Ardennes as the rumble of engines rolls through the frozen forest. The morning mist hangs low among the pine trees, muffling every sound except the metallic clatter of tank tracks biting into ice-covered roads. Inside the steel hull of a German Panzerkampfwagen VI Tiger, Oberfeldwebel Karl Brenner adjusts the focus of his binoculars through the commander's cupola. His crew has spent years believing one thing with absolute certainty. There is no Allied tank that can stand against the Tiger. A radio operator breaks the silence. Her Oberfeldwebel movement. Multiple vehicles. West Road. Brenner raises his glasses. At first he smiles. Shermans. More American Shermans. The same squat silhouettes with their tall hulls and narrow 75mm guns that German propaganda had mocked for years. Easy work, the gunner mutters. No one inside the Tiger disagrees. After all, on paper, the comparison seems almost unfair. The Tiger's legendary 8.8 centimeters KWK 36 gun can destroy a Sherman well beyond 2,000 meters under favorable conditions. Its frontal armor, 100 millimeters of hardened steel, shrugs off most rounds fired by the early American 75mm cannon. German tank crews often describe engagements as hunting rather than fighting. One shot, one burning Sherman, another victory. That confidence did not emerge from arrogance alone. It was built from experience. During the campaigns in Tunisia, Sicily, Italy, and the early battles after the Normandy landings, many German crews discovered that a Tiger or Panther could knock out several Shermans before the Americans even entered effective firing range. Stories spread quickly through armored divisions. One Tiger destroyed 10 tanks. Another survived dozens of direct hits. Crews returning from battle spoke of Shermans erupting into flames after a single penetrating shot, reinforcing the nickname many Germans favored, Tommy Cookers. While that term has often been debated by historians and was more commonly associated with British-operated Shermans, the underlying belief remained widespread among German crews. The Sherman was simply inferior. And yet, experience has a dangerous habit. It teaches yesterday's lessons, not tomorrow's. Across the same frozen valley, Staff Sergeant William Harris wipes condensation from the inside of his periscope inside an M4 Sherman. His tank is nothing like the mythical monster waiting beyond the trees. Its armor is thinner. Its gun is smaller. Its profile is taller. Every American tanker knows exactly what a Tiger can do. Training films have shown it. Veterans have described it. Entire platoons have disappeared after encountering just one. Nobody inside Harris's Sherman believes they possess the superior machine. What they do believe is something else entirely. Behind them stretch thousands of miles of logistics unlike anything the world has ever seen. Fuel trucks, recovery vehicles, repair depots, replacement engines, convoys that never seem to end. If one Sherman is lost today, another arrives tomorrow, sometimes the same afternoon. The difference between Germany and America was never simply measured in armor thickness. It was measured in factories. Far across the Atlantic, the assembly lines of Detroit Arsenal Tank Plant, Press Steel Car Company, Fisher Body, Chrysler, and dozens of subcontractors operate around the clock. Steel enters one end. Finished tanks emerge from the other. Workers scarcely pause. Shift replaces shift. Women rivet hull plates. Machinists finish gun barrels. Inspectors check transmissions before another Sherman rolls toward a waiting rail car. By war's end, nearly 50,000 M4 Shermans will be built. No nation in history has ever produced a medium tank on such a scale. For Germany, each Tiger represents thousands of hours of skilled labor. For America, a Sherman is becoming almost routine. Back in Belgium, Brenner's Tiger halts behind a hedgerow. The gunner aligns the massive 88. Distance, 1,600 meters. The first Sherman appears between two leafless trees. Fire. The explosion shakes the Tiger from bow to stern. A shell screams across the frozen field. The Sherman erupts into orange flame. The turret hatch flies open. Black smoke climbs into the winter sky. The loader grins. One. Exactly as expected. Moments later, another Sherman appears. Then another. The Tiger fires again. Another direct hit. Another burning wreck. Still easy. Still exactly as training predicted. Then the radio crackles. Multiple contacts north. A second voice interrupts. Movement east. Another. Armor approaching from the south road. Brenner turns sharply. His confident smile begins to fade. The Shermans are no longer arriving in a neat column. They are spreading. Some halt behind buildings. Others disappear behind ridge lines. Several race across open fields while infantry follows close behind. Tank destroyers move somewhere beyond them. Artillery begins searching the German position. Aircraft engines echo overhead. The battlefield is expanding faster than anyone inside the Tiger anticipated. The problem is no longer destroying one Sherman, or three. It is that every destroyed tank seems to be replaced by another emerging through the smoke. And another. And another. For the first time that morning, Oberfeldwebel Brenner realizes something unsettling. The Americans are not trying to win a duel. They are fighting an entirely different kind of war. Section 2. The factories that never slept. The Tiger reverses behind a shattered stone farmhouse, its Maybach engine roaring as chunks of frozen earth fly from the tracks. Inside, Oberfeldwebel Karl Brenner's crew works with practiced precision. Armor piercing. The loader slams another 88mm round into the breech. The gunner traverses left. Another Sherman appears through drifting smoke. Fire. The recoil crashes through the hull. At nearly 1,400 meters, the American tank stops abruptly. Flames burst from the engine deck as its crew scrambles through the hatches. Another kill. The Tiger remains exactly what it had always been, a terrifying machine. Yet something feels different. The radio refuses to stay quiet. Every few seconds, another report arrives. Enemy armor west. American infantry advancing. Self-propelled artillery incoming. Request immediate support. Instead of isolated engagements, the entire front seems to be collapsing into dozens of simultaneous battles. Brenner has spent years mastering armored combat. He understands range estimation, weak points, hold down positions, fire discipline. But no amount of training has prepared him for an enemy that simply refuses to stop appearing. Nearly 6,000 kilometers away, another battle is unfolding. There is no artillery, no varning vidigis, no tangvues, only the endless rhythm of machines. It is January 1944 inside the Detroit Arsenal tank plant in Warren, Michigan. A whistle echoes across the factory floor before dawn. Thousands of workers stream through the gates. Some wear heavy winter coats. Others still carry lunch pails packed before sunrise. Many have husbands, sons, or brothers fighting somewhere in Europe or the Pacific. Their battlefield is steel. An unfinished Sherman hull hangs from an overhead crane. Further down the line, mechanics install the Ford GAA V8 engine, while electricians feed wiring through narrow compartments before armor plates permanently seal the interior. Nothing here is handcrafted. Nothing is built as a masterpiece. Everything is built to be repeated. Again, and again, and again. American engineers had embraced an idea that would have horrified many traditional military planners. Instead of designing the single most powerful tank possible, design one that factories can build by the tens of thousands. Every component is examined through one simple question. Can it be produced faster? Can it be repaired easier? Can another factory build the same part? This philosophy influences nearly everything. The Sherman's transmission can often be removed in the field without dismantling the entire vehicle. Road wheels are interchangeable. Engines, though varied between production models, are designed with maintenance in mind. Entire power packs can be swapped by recovery crews far more quickly than those of many German heavy tanks. The tank is not perfect. Far from it. Its armor cannot match a Tiger. Its standard 75mm gun struggles against heavy German frontal armor. Its high silhouette makes concealment difficult. American crews know these weaknesses. Their commanders know them. The War Department knows them. Yet production never slows, because the Sherman is not being built to win every duel. It is being built to fight every day. Across the Atlantic, Germany faces a different reality. At the Henschel factory in Kassel, workers assemble Tigers under conditions growing more desperate with each passing month. Strategic bombing raids interrupt production. Electricity becomes unreliable. Transportation networks suffer repeated attacks from Allied aircraft. Raw materials arrive late, if they arrive at all. Each Tiger demands immense quantities of steel, precision machining, and skilled labor. Its overlapping road wheels require careful maintenance. Its transmission is placed under enormous strain by the vehicle's nearly 57-ton weight. The engineering is extraordinary, but extraordinary machines often demand extraordinary care, and war rarely provides it. When a Tiger breaks down, recovery is no simple matter. Often, another heavy vehicle must tow it. Sometimes, too, if recovery is impossible, demolition charges may be the only option. A tank that survives enemy fire can still be lost to a failed gearbox or a destroyed final drive. German crews joke bitterly that the greatest enemy of the Tiger is sometimes its own mechanical complexity. There is truth hidden beneath the humor. Staff Sergeant William Harris has never seen the inside of an American tank factory. He does not need to. He sees its results every week. Replacement tanks arrive at depots. Fresh tracks still shine with factory grease. Replacement radios. Replacement machine guns. Boxes of spare periscopes. Entire engines wrapped for shipment. His own Sherman has already been repaired twice. Once after throwing a track. Once after an artillery fragment damaged the suspension. Neither repair required sending the tank back across an ocean. Within days, it was back with its platoon. The United States Army has built something far larger than a tank. It has built a system. Fuel follows tanks. Ammunition follows fuel. Recovery vehicles follow the fighting. Engineers repair roads almost as quickly as the Germans destroy them. When bridges collapse, pontoon units begin assembling new crossings before the smoke is cleared. To the average American tanker, logistics become almost invisible. Supplies simply appear. To German soldiers watching from the opposite side, it seems almost impossible. The battle outside St. Vith intensifies. Brenner's Tiger destroys another Sherman attempting to flank from the west. Its burning wreck blocks the road. But before the smoke clears, another American tank emerges from behind the disabled vehicle. Then another. Infantry spreads through nearby woods. Machine gun fire rattles against the Tiger's thick armor. American artillery begins walking shells closer with remarkable precision. A shell explodes nearby. The Tiger lurches violently. Dust rains from the turret's ceiling. The radio operator looks toward Brenner. Herr Oberfeldwebel, they're coordinating everything. He is right. The Shermans are no longer acting alone. Forward observers are directing artillery. Engineers are clearing obstacles. Infantry is protecting the tanks from close assault. Tank destroyers lurk on the flanks. Fighter bombers circle whenever the weather allows. The Sherman is only one piece of a much larger machine. Brenner suddenly understands that he has spent years measuring tanks against tanks. The Americans are measuring armies against armies. And those are two very different calculations. Section 3. When one Tiger faced an entire army. The afternoon sky over the Ardennes darkens beneath low clouds. Snow begins falling again. Not enough to conceal movement, but enough to blur the edges of the battlefield. Inside the Tiger, the smell of burned propellant fills the cramped fighting compartment. Empty brass shell casings roll across the steel floor with every jolt of the suspension. The loader wipes sweat from his face despite the freezing air. 5 armor-piercing rounds left. No one answers. Outside, another Sherman darts between 2 shattered barns before disappearing behind a rise. The gunner steadies the sight. Target lost. A year earlier, that might have been the end of the engagement. Today, it is only the beginning. By late 1944, the U.S. Army had learned painful lessons from North Africa, Italy, and Normandy. American commanders no longer expected the Sherman to defeat every German heavy tank in a head-on duel. Instead, they rewrote the rules of the fight. If a Tiger appeared, artillery was called. If artillery was unavailable, tank destroyers maneuvered. If neither could engage, fighter-bombers were summoned whenever weather permitted. The objective was never to prove that one Sherman could defeat one Tiger. The objective was to destroy the Tiger by whatever combination of weapons the battlefield offered. This philosophy reflected a broader American doctrine. Victory belonged not to the strongest individual weapon, but to the force that could coordinate infantry, armor, artillery, engineers, aviation, communications, and logistics into a single, unified system. It was a form of warfare that demanded discipline more than heroics. Captain James Hollister of the U.S. 7th Armored Division watches through field glasses from a command half-track. His radio operators relay reports from every direction. Enemy armor confirmed. Second platoon advancing. Engineers have cleared the crossroads. Artillery mission complete. Each message fits into a larger picture. He does not need every Sherman to survive. He needs each platoon to remain in contact, continue maneuvering, and keep pressure on the enemy. A disabled tank can often be recovered. A destroyed bridge can be rebuilt. Lost momentum is far harder to replace. That is why American formations continue moving, even after taking losses. The battle is measured in objectives, not individual vehicles. German armor doctrine had once inspired the world. During the campaigns in Poland in 1939 and France in 1940, concentrated armor, supported by aircraft and mobile infantry, shattered larger but slower opponents. The concept of rapid operational movement, later popularly associated with the term blitzkrieg, relied on speed, initiative, and coordination. But by the winter of 1944, Germany faced conditions utterly different from those early victories. Fuel shortages limited maneuver. Experienced crews had become increasingly difficult to replace. Many veteran officers have been killed, wounded, or captured. Factories struggled to replace equipment as Allied bombing intensified. Even the finest tank could not compensate for shortages of gasoline, spare parts, and train mechanics. A Tiger without fuel was simply 57 tons of immobile steel. The radio inside Brenner's tank crackles again. Panther platoon unable to reach your position. Another pause. Fuel convoy delayed. He closes his eyes for a brief moment. Fuel. Always fuel. Every movement now carries a calculation. Advance or conserve fuel. Redeploy or save enough for tomorrow. The Tiger's powerful engine consumes fuel at a rate the Germans can no longer comfortably sustain. To Brenner, it feels less like fighting individual tanks and more like standing in front of a river. Destroy one wave. Another follows. Several kilometers away, Sergeant Michael Donnelly's Sherman platoon receives new orders. Avoid the Tiger's frontal armor. Move through the woods. Force it to divide its attention. Donnelly understands the assignment immediately. He has no illusions about his 75mm gun. Against the Tiger's thick frontal plate, it is unlikely to succeed except under favorable conditions or at close range against weaker areas. So he does not attack where the Tiger is strongest. Instead, his platoon spreads out. One section advances cautiously through the trees. Another moves along a hedgerow. A third remains concealed, ready to fire if the German tank exposes its flank. No single Sherman expects to become the hero of the battle. Their strength lies in cooperation. Every movement forces the Tiger commander to make another decision. Every new direction divides his attention. Every passing minute increases the likelihood that artillery or another armored unit will arrive. Brenner scans through his cupola. Movement. Left, then right, then behind a line of trees. His gun can engage only one target at a time. Across the battlefield, American Shermans continue moving. Some withdraw to refuel. Others replace damaged vehicles in the line. Trucks arrive with ammunition. Recovery vehicles tow crippled tanks toward maintenance areas. The flow never seems to stop. His turret traverses steadily, but not instantly. The battlefield has become a circle of threats. The Tiger still possesses unmatched firepower. Its armor still commands respect. Yet every advantage seems to shrink beneath the sheer number of decisions now confronting its crew. The gunner fires. Another Sherman burns. But the victory feels strangely hollow. For every tank destroyed, two more have already changed position. For every threat eliminated, another emerges from a different angle. This is not the dual German armored doctrine had envisioned. It is a battle of endurance, coordination, and relentless pressure. And for the first time since the war began, some veteran German tank commanders begin to ask a question they had long dismissed. What if the Americans never intended to build the best tank? Only enough good tanks to make the question irrelevant? Section 4. Steel against time. The Tiger shudders as another artillery shell detonates nearby. A shower of frozen earth crashes against the turret. Visibility drops to only a few hundred meters as smoke, snow, and splintered timber drift across the battlefield. Oberfeldwebel Karl Brenner grips the edge of the commander's hatch. His crew has destroyed 6 Shermans since dawn. Under almost any other circumstances, it would have been remembered as an extraordinary day. Instead, the battlefield still belongs to the Americans. Not because the Tiger has failed, but because the war has changed around it. 6 months earlier, on the beaches of Normandy, Allied commanders had accepted a hard truth. German heavy tanks could dominate individual engagements. Yet the invasion did not depend upon winning every tank duel. It depended upon keeping divisions supplied across an entire continent. Within days of the landings in June 1944, engineers had already begun unloading thousands of tons of fuel, ammunition, food, and spare parts across the artificial Mulberry harbors. The Pluto pipeline under the ocean, would later supplement fuel deliveries from Britain into liberated France. Every Sherman rolling inland represented far more than its crew of 5. It represented an industrial chain stretching from steel mills in Pennsylvania to assembly plants in Michigan, from Liberty ships crossing the Atlantic to truck convoys pushing through France. Destroying a Sherman removed one link. Destroying the entire chain was another matter entirely. German logistics told a different story. By late 1944, the Reich was fighting on multiple fronts under constant pressure. Synthetic fuel plants had become priority targets for Allied bombers. Rail junctions were repeatedly attacked. Bridges disappeared beneath bombs faster than engineers could replace them. A shipment delayed by one day at the factory might arrive a week late at the front, if it arrived at all. The Ardennes offensive itself depended on capturing Allied fuel stocks. German planners knew their own reserves were insufficient for a prolonged advance. Some armored formations entered the offensive with barely enough gasoline to reach their first objectives. The plan assumed success would provide the fuel needed for the next stage. It was a gamble, one that became increasingly difficult as resistance stiffened. Inside Brenner's Tiger, the driver studies the fuel gauge. He does not like what he sees. Commander, no explanation is necessary. Every crewman understands. Fuel is becoming as precious as ammunition. The Tiger's powerful Maybach HL-230 engine delivers impressive performance for a vehicle of its size, but it cannot escape physics. Nearly 57 tons of armor and steel demand enormous amounts of fuel. Every kilometer now carries a cost. Every unnecessary maneuver shortens the distance the tank can travel tomorrow. Across the American lines, mechanics work beneath canvas shelters despite the freezing temperatures. One Sherman has thrown a track after striking debris. Another needs a damaged bogie replaced. Nearby, recovery crews tow a battle-damaged tank into a maintenance area. Its turret bears a fresh scar where an armor-piercing round failed to penetrate completely. The crew has already received another vehicle and returned to the fight. The damaged Sherman will not be abandoned. It will be repaired if possible, returned to service if practical, cannibalized for parts if necessary. Very little is wasted. American doctrine assumes equipment will wear out, break down, or be damaged. The system is designed around that expectation. Lieutenant Harold Evans walks through the maintenance park, watching welders repair armor plates under dim lights. He notices something remarkable. Almost every damaged Sherman arrived under its own power or was recovered by specialized vehicles. Very few have been permanently lost. The American Army has become exceptionally good at returning tanks to combat. Replacement engines arrivent. Transmissions are swapped. Road wheels are exchanged. Crews often joke that a Sherman spends almost as much time in workshops as it does on the battlefield. Yet those workshops are precisely why so many Shermans keep returning. The enemy may destroy the tank. Destroying the system that rebuilds it is far more difficult. Back near St. Vith, Brenner finally receives the order he has been expecting. Withdraw to secondary defensive positions. It is not a rout. It is not panic. It is simple necessity. The German advance has slowed. Fuel is low. American pressure continues to increase. The Tiger begins reversing carefully down a narrow forest road. No one inside mistakes the withdrawal for defeat. Yet no one mistakes it for victory either. As they pull away, Brenner glances across the battlefield one last time. Several Shermans burn where the Tiger's shells found their mark. Others sit disabled beside the road. Recovery vehicles are already approaching them. Farther back, fresh columns of American armor continue moving toward the front. The scene leaves an impression he cannot ignore. The Americans seem willing to lose tanks, provided they keep moving. The lesson spreads quietly among experienced German tank crews during the final months of the war. They continue to respect the Tiger's unmatched firepower. They continue to believe that, in a direct duel, it remains one of the most formidable tanks ever built. But respect slowly replaces contempt for the Sherman. Because the Sherman was never meant to fight alone. It was meant to fight as part of an industrial nation that could replace losses, repair damage, coordinate every branch of its military, and sustain offensive operations month after month. The German army had built magnificent weapons. The United States had built a war machine. And in the end, those were not the same thing. Section 5, The Last Lesson. March 1945. West of the Rhine, Germany. The first light of dawn glints off the broad river as American engineers guide pontoon sections into the fast-moving current. Diesel engines growl. Steel cables tighten. Men in heavy jackets shout over the sound of hammers striking metal. Only a few kilometers away, German artillery lands among the bridge approaches, throwing columns of water high into the air. The work never stops. Before the smoke clears, another section is floated into place. Another truck crosses. Then another. Then another. Within hours, tanks begin rolling over a bridge that had not existed the day before. For the soldiers watching from a German side, it is another reminder that they are no longer fighting isolated units. They are fighting an entire industrial civilization in motion. Oberfeldwebel Karl Brenner's Tiger has survived longer than many of the tanks that rolled out of the Henschel factory with it. The camouflage paint is scarred by shell fragments. Several spare track links welded to the turret have been replaced. The engine no longer sounds as smooth as it once did. Its crew is smaller now. Men who loaded shells or operated radios months earlier are gone, killed, wounded, or transferred. Replacements have arrived, but they cannot replace experience. Brenner notices the difference every time the gun is loaded a second too slowly or a range estimate takes an extra moment. Veteran crews, like the tanks themselves, have become impossible to manufacture overnight. Across the Rhine, Staff Sergeant William Harris guides a Sherman forward behind a column of infantry. His tank is not the same one he commanded during the fighting in the Ardennes. That vehicle had been knocked out weeks earlier by a concealed anti-tank gun. His crew survived. Within days, they were issued another Sherman. The names painted on the barrel changed. The scratches on the armor disappeared. The mission remained exactly the same. For Harris, the replacement had become almost routine. For Brenner, losing a Tiger often meant losing something Germany could scarcely afford to replace. This difference, quiet, almost administrative, had become one of the decisive realities of the war. The battlefield itself reflects that reality. American armored columns no longer advance as isolated spearheads. Shermans move with armored infantry riding nearby. Engineers travel close behind, ready to clear mines, repair roads, or throw bridges across streams. Self-propelled artillery remains within radio contact. Fuel trucks follow the advance. Recovery vehicles linger just behind the fighting. Above them, whenever weather permits, Allied fighters patrol the skies. Every branch supports every other. The Sherman is one cog in an enormous machine. Remove one cog, the machine continues turning. German resistance remains fierce. Panzerfaust teams ambush advancing armor from ruined villages. Anti-tank guns still claim American tanks. Panthers and Tigers, when properly positioned, remain deadly opponents capable of knocking out Shermans at long range. No experienced American tanker mistakes victory for inevitability. Every crossroads may conceal another gun. Every tree line may hide another Panther. The cost of advancing across Germany remains measured in burning vehicles and empty seats around evening campfires. Yet each local success grows harder for Germany to transform into strategic success. A Tiger platoon may stop one American column. Another appears on a neighboring road. A bridge is demolished. Engineers construct another. A rail line is bombed. Supplies arrive by truck. Again and again, American operations absorb setbacks and continue moving. Historians have often debated whether the Sherman was the best tank of the Second World War. The answer depends entirely on the question being asked. In a one-on-one duel against the Tiger, particularly in the open and at long range, the Tiger usually held the advantage in armor and firepower. The Sherman was never designed to win that comparison. Instead, it was designed to be reliable, mechanically practical, transportable across oceans, reparable in field workshops, and capable of being produced in staggering numbers. Nearly 50,000 M4 Shermans rolled off American assembly lines during the war. By comparison, Germany built roughly 1,350 Tiger I tanks and fewer than 500 Tiger II tanks. Even when including the more numerous Panther, German production could not match the scale of Allied industry. Numbers alone did not decide the war, but numbers combined with training, logistics, communications, engineering, air superiority, and coordinated doctrine created an advantage that grew larger with every passing month. As Brenner's Tiger pulls into a wooded assembly area for what may be the last time, he steps onto the frozen ground and looks back at the machine that has carried him through years of war. He still believes it is one of the finest tanks ever built. He's probably right, but he also understands something he could not have imagined when he first laughed at the silhouette of an M4 Sherman. Wars are not won because one weapon is superior. They are won when an entire nation can build, fuel, repair, transport, coordinate, and replace those weapons faster than its enemy can destroy them. The Sherman had never needed to be the strongest tank on the battlefield. It only needed to arrive, then arrive again and again, until there were hundreds appearing from every direction, until even the crews inside Germany's most feared tanks understood that they were no longer fighting individual machines. They were fighting the full weight of Allied industry.